Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the WHOLEISTIC method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everyone, it's Debbie Potts, your host of the Whole Athlete Podcast. And on this episode, we have a new guest today. Her name is Susan Luchas, and I found her by researching on detoxification, drainage, and gut bugs as I was in school the last year, nutritional therapy program, and really found her blog filled with information. So I wanted to bring her on the show to talk more about why athletes really need to work on their gut health and why we need to detoxify. Susan Luchas is a PhD. She is an MIT-trained scientist and engineer. Susan was forced to apply her critical thinking skills to debug her own family's health problems. She has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of her life on doctors, experiment, and research. She did not stop until her family achieved radiant health. Doctors started sending their unhealable patients to her. And in January 2016, she published everything she knows for free about detoxification, drainage, diet and lifestyle, social and emotional aspects of healing, chronic illness, and many other topics. And you can find this all on her website called Debug Your Health. And that is where I found her. So if you go to debugyourhealth.com, you can find all this information from Susan. Welcome to the show, Susan. I am excited to talk to you more about detoxification and how the endurance athlete, triathletes, runners out there really need to work on what I call transforming the whole you with a holistic method by working on our gut health and our microbiome and detoxification system. Could you take a moment to explain what the detoxification pathways and detoxification function is about, as well as the energetic pathways you talk about on your website?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have kind of my own definition of the word detox. And my definition of detox is that you do something or detoxification is that you do something actively to try to pull toxins out of your body. So that's what I call detox. So examples of that might be going in the sauna or sweating, where you try to force your body to sweat in order to hopefully excrete some toxins, chemicals or pesticides or heavy metals or inert metals or whatever. And then there's other things like taking a supplement. One of my favorites for detox is activated charcoal, and that again goes through the digestive system. It can help pull things out with it, and you excrete that. So those are some examples of the detox. Now on the drainage side, drainage to me refers to opening pathways of detoxification, and that's more subtle. So you don't take anything necessarily to pull something out. It's more that you try to balance your drainage or detox pathways and get the pathways to kind of open so that things just naturally start to flow out without actively trying to pull them out like you do in detox. So drainage is more tricky. We do that with, there's a couple of different ways. One way was what I call a drainage remedy, and most of these are homeopathic and herbal, and you do weird things like rub them on your arm or take 5 tiny drops per day to just try to help open a specific pathway. And so homeopathic and herbal. And then the other way to get at drainage pathways is with these energetic treatments. Some things like Zyto is pretty good at it, Asira or Quest 4, those are some other technologies, this kind of energetic treatment. Those can also sometimes open up a stuck detox pathway. So, or a stuck drainage pathway, rather. I call it drainage. So a stuck drainage pathway, those energetic treatments can also sometimes open them up. The tricky part about drainage is that it really depends on the person at that moment in time. So you might need some weird pathway open, like spleen, or lymph is more common, that your lymph pathways are stuck, or even heart pathways, or small intestine pathways. So there can be all these different pathways. So you really kind of need some way to figure that out. And I have videos and suggestions on my website for specifically how to test, how we test, and also specific products so people can check there if they're interested in that.
How do our detoxifications get clogged or blocked? And what are the different pathways? I know in nutritional therapy, we talk about the function of the liver that has over 500 different roles, in the kidneys and our skin. So let's talk a little bit more about detoxification pathways in our body.
So the main organs of excretion, as you mentioned, are the liver and the kidneys and the skin. The skin is actually our number one organ of excretion, in my opinion. And as well as we also excrete sometimes through the hair, which is why people often test the hair. So those are really organs of excretion, and I think they're great. And sometimes people talk about liver phase, all the phases of liver detoxification. Okay, great. But the drainage pathways that I'm referring to are more energetic and subtle than that. And it might not just be your excretion organs. So it might not just be your liver pathway or your kidney pathway. It might be something like your spleen and your heart, and your lungs, things that we don't normally associate with being places from which we want to detox. But believe it or not, toxins diffuse into our body. And we also get toxins into our body through all kinds of methods, through breathing, through our skin, through our food, and all of that. So the toxins can end up sort of all over our body. And sometimes these pathways that get stuck are completely not obvious, unfortunately. So the question is, how do they get stuck, or how does detox get stuck? I mean, like I mentioned, we have these things all over our environment, in our cookware, in our schools. They spray pesticide in the air we breathe, the air and the water we have around here where I live, which is Sunnyvale, California. We have a lot of aluminum in the air, and I can't figure out. It's just in the air. I have to think it's from chemtrails or maybe airplanes, but probably chemtrails. But I don't know where it comes from. But these days, stuff is just kind of everywhere. So I'm afraid that the bad news is that even us normal, healthy people have to kind of think about detox and a little bit maybe drainage to just kind of live in this world that we're living in right now. The good news is that we do have some methods now. It's more well known. Detox supplements. A lot of people have all kinds of supplements out there, some of which I think are good, some of which are maybe not so helpful. So there are a lot of options out there now.
Let's dive into more specific population, the athlete, the endurance athlete, doing triathlons. We're out there swimming in open water rivers and lakes and swimming in chemicals in a pool. Then we're biking outside, breathing air. Maybe there's forest fires going on this summertime, and running outside, breathing that same air. So let's talk about why athletes need to be more concerned about their ability to detoxify, and if their elimination pathways are all open, and how that affects their performance in their sports as well as life. Now, what are the signs and symptoms of detoxification problems? How do we know if we have any parasite or worms and things inside of us that shouldn't be there? And how do we get rid of them?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the one thing athletes really have going for them is that hopefully they're sweating, and your body can actually put out quite a bit by sweating. Some ideas that I know, another thing I've actually read on your website that you talk a lot about is hydration, and obviously drinking a lot of water. Our bodies can't detox without a lot of water. And that also means, of course, you can get water poisoning. You need to watch your minerals as well with that. But I think hydration and sweating are first great starts. And I think endurance athletes kind of have that automatically built in, which is great. Beyond that, my personal things that I do, if I'm outside training for a race, which I have 2 little kids, so I don't do many races anymore. But what I do, I can tell you what I do I do the neti pot if I've been outside a lot. There's a lot of junk in our air, and there's also a lot of junk in our rainwater and in our lakes. So one of the main things I do if I've been training a lot or outside a lot is I do the neti pot at night before I go to bed. So that's number one. Number two is that I am actually a pretty big fan of enemas, and just a saltwater enema, or just saline water with a little bit of saline in it. You can buy them at the drugstore for a couple of bucks, called Fleet enemas, or you can get more fancy and get an enema bucket or whatever. But if you're swimming in open water, and I think that's kind of a good thing to do, just in general, believe it or not, these bacteria from swimming pools that are contaminated and open water, they can basically crawl up your anus. I hate to talk about that on your podcast, but it does happen, and it can happen. And, if I've been in especially toxic water or swimming pool with tons of people where I'm kind of suspicious, our family comes home and we just do an enema. And it may sound scary to people at first, but once you try it, you might be surprised how much better you feel. I can tell you that our first enemas were life-changing for our family, really. My littlest one put out a huge tapeworm. I had my brain fog immediately go away. I mean, we had all kinds of massive health benefits from an enema, and it's relatively cheap and it's easy to do at home. So if you're swimming in open water or chlorinate or pools that are kind of suspicious, I would definitely go for the enema. The other thing I would do is they can also go up, any number of other places, right? So one of the things that our families had before is the urinary, and all kinds of bacteria and parasites can just crawl right up there as well. And so that's a little more tricky to deal with. And what we do now is we test for that using the methods that are videos that are shown on my website. It shows you exactly how we test. But we will test for things like urinary tract infection and bladder infection. And the question is, how do we do that? And again, the videos are on my website. But I can skip to the chase and tell you that one of our favorite products over the years is one called UT, U like umbrella, T like Tom, Vibrance. And it's an herbal supplement, and it's great for just those little creepy crawlies that go up the urinary tract. And this is not, if you already have a raging infection, this is probably not going to help that much, but it's more of a preventative kind of a thing. And usually with the UT Vibrance, those little things will just go away before we ever get into a urinary tract or a bladder kind of issue. So if your listeners aren't willing to test using the methods described on my website, which are basically muscle testing, if they're not comfortable doing that, then I would just take a scoop or two of UT Vibrance after swimming in sketchy water and just make it a habit. That's what I would do if you're not into testing. If you can figure out how to muscle test, use the videos on my website to help. You can test UT Vibrance, you can test some of the other products and just kind of see what you think and try to optimize. And you can also dose yourself and say, okay, do I need 1 scoop of UT or do I need 2 scoops or whatever? But kind of as a default protocol, I would do a scoop after swimming in sketchy water.
So in nutritional therapy, we talk a lot about the big ideas of detoxification. I'll just share what they are real quick. But a big one I find interesting is detoxification is a parasympathetic nervous system process. So if we're not going to detoxify correctly, if we're, say, sympathetic dominant and we're not able to switch back to that parasympathetic state back into sympathetic and have going back and forth. But when we're sleeping at night, we've talked about how we're supposed to be detoxifying, having that housekeeping service come to our inside body functions while we're sleeping. And we have these dietary and external environmental toxins, as I said, especially for triathletes around us because we're outside more and we're swimming in those water more. So that's a big one. Detoxification frees vital cellular and organ activities to function productively and efficiently. So we get our liver, as I said, does over 500 different jobs. But if our liver is overburdened, how are we going to have the liver make the bile to emulsify fats? How is our liver supposed to store and make sugar for glucose? How are we going to detoxify from all these toxins in our environment? So I find it a big part that, we need to be able to detoxify, but a lot of us are not. And we work on addressing all the foundations first and working on improving all the detoxification organs. All those pathways are open. So making sure the kidneys and the liver and the skin and our elimination pathways and our colon, our digestive system are working correctly. So go into a little bit more about how stress and sleep and those elements of the holistic method can impair detoxification or be affected.
Right. So one, if I haven't already grossed out your listeners, maybe I'll do it now. But one other thing to consider is that my family has peed out worms, and they were worms. Yeah, and they were worms that were in the urinary tract. And again, this was before. They probably have had these worms. Mostly my kids have done it. They probably have had these worms for quite some time. But we weren't able to figure it out. Now, UT Vibrance is not going to take care of that. It's going to take care of the sort of initial amoebas and the initial bacterial and the initial viral, and maybe some of the initial parasitic, but it's not going to take care of a worm that's big enough for you to see. UT is not going to bother that worm. So we did not, I did not, so the question is, how did I get my kids to pee out worms? The only way that I finally got them to pee out worms was to put them on prescription parasite medications. Unfortunately, we tried every herbal, homeopathic, et cetera approach. You can read all about it on the website. But at the end of the day, we had to go to prescription parasite medications. So that is another thing to explore if you're in a situation where you've had, like you said, health problems since swimming in this water. You may want to, they're probably big enough that an herbal, homeopathic, et cetera approach isn't going to work. And you may have to, if you want to ever resolve that, you may have to look at the prescription parasite medications. And that's a difficult one. That's extremely difficult. You can check out my website. There's only one MD in this country right now who's prescribing parasite medications properly. He's in St. Louis, Missouri. So you could fly to him. His name's Simon Yu. He's the only practitioner that's going to be able to help you. Unless you want to try the DIY approach, and you can check my website for all the details about how to do that. So that's the unfortunate news. But the fortunate news about that is that these parasite medications are relatively cheap, and you'd be amazed how much better you feel if you do end up going that route and you do end up peeing out worms. It's unbelievable how much better you can feel. I'm
pretty predictable at nighttime. I usually start yawning about 8 p.m., so I don't even need to look at what time it is, but 7:30, I need to go to bed 8 o'clock during the week because I get up at 4:30 in the morning. Sadly, I wish I could sleep in till 5:30, 6 a.m. I'd wake up naturally, but I really need my 7 to 9 hours of sleep. 7 feels like not enough. 9, I feel refreshed. But I find a lot of times people just stay up too late. They start doing things. They're out late in the summertime with their kids and doing activities, and I'm the one that's ready to go to bed. I don't know how people can get the second wind, I guess. But, I think what's interesting is how people go to bed, and these teenagers and these college kids I'm coaching, they're going to bed at 12 o'clock, 2 in the morning. And I'm sure, I did that once, but I was always a person that needed their sleep, and I'd rather go to bed early and get up early. But talk a little bit about the importance of sleep. Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. I haven't really talked much about that. So there's stress, there's sleep, and then there's also diet. I mean, I assume the people most of your listeners probably have a pretty clean diet and eat healthy food and organic and all of that. I definitely think that's important too. And the sleep part of it is difficult because a lot of people just don't sleep well. A lot of people can't fall asleep. A lot of people wake up in the middle of the night several times, either to go to the bathroom or for unknown reasons. A lot of
people really struggle with sleep. And I'm not a sleep expert, but I've read some of the tips and tricks. Don't use a computer and your cell phones right before bed. Have a routine, wind yourself down, get into a routine. All of those kind of things. Get rid of lights in the bedroom, and all of that. And I think that's all really important. So I think if people are waking up at night, if they're having trouble getting to sleep, I think those are the first things to work on. For the stress side of it, stress is stress. We all have it. I definitely struggle with stress and sleep. And my sleep struggle is not sleeping and staying asleep. My sleep struggle is getting to bed on time. That's my big struggle personally. I have a lot of things to do. My to-do list is always 200 things long. And I have trouble getting to bed on time. If I can get to bed on time, I'm great. But the problem for me is getting distracted and getting into, finishing something or whatever, and I don't get to bed on time. So that's my big sleep problem.
I call it the monkey mind, because I think a lot of times we have so many things going on, especially for type A, ambitious, want to do it all. There's just not enough time in the day to get everything done. And I always had that problem, which is why I cut my podcast off, put it on hold the last couple of months, because I was just doing what I normally do too much. And I know the red flags when I need to slow down, cut some things out, prioritize. But going to sleep at night, you just have all those thoughts in your head, and just writing them down, journaling, gratitude really helps. In a book, just 3 things you're thankful for that day, just help to quiet the mind. And I have a goal of trying to read 3 pages before I go to bed in my book. I'm trying to read different books each month now, be better about that, and staying off the computer, and not working too late close to bed, not eating close to bed. And what I'm not good at doing is meditating, but I think it's definitely beneficial for a lot of people at evening or morning time and getting their mind right, but also at nighttime, quieting your mind and quieting those inner thoughts, that chatter. But the HRV, heart rate variability training, has really helped me just to lay still and try to see how I can change my heart rate variability on a scale 1 to 100. I want it closer to 100. So that's really helped working with Sweetbeat and testing that for myself.
It seems kind of counterintuitive, because meditation takes more time out of your day, and you're already struggling to have enough time in your day. But I find that it really is helpful. And people talk about 5-10 minute meditation, and great. If that's all you can do, do it. And when I meditate, there's different formats and techniques. The goal of meditation is to really clear your thoughts, really get above your thoughts, so your mind becomes quiet, and then you rest in that quietness. And there's different ways people do that. Sometimes people chant a mantra or repeat, or they focus on their breathing. I think these are all great techniques, however you get there, however you do it. And it seems really counterintuitive, but I feel like the meditation somehow ends up bringing me more time, and also more calm and center throughout the day. And I find it really helpful.
I really find that so many people are just chronically stressed, even though it's with activities and tasks and projects and people and everything that's positive, but it's the accumulation of stress. We talk about the beaker of stress gets filled up from, maybe it's, a gut infection. It might be too much sugar in your diet, but it could be just packing your day too full. Like I talk about in my book, in my personal story, life is not a race, that we don't pace the whole us from the time we get up in the morning, the alarm goes off, and we just are going nonstop until we hit the pillow at night. And our day is packed so full. Like I said earlier, we just want to do so much. It's really hard to slow down at night. And I'm finding more and more we need to talk about the effects of chronic stress on our body and the importance of sleep as well, because that's when our detoxification is happening, primarily when we're middle of the night, when we're asleep. So
I don't have quantitative data on this, but I can say that I feel better. I can definitely say I feel better. I feel like I'm more productive. I feel like I'm calmer. I feel like my relationships with people are better, and I just feel like I'm functioning better. I feel stronger. The other thing I didn't mention about stress that I would like to mention is that I think routine is really important for stress reduction. We are creatures of habit. And I really believe that. And I think a good, strong routine is important. So that means, my routine is I wake up, I wake up an hour and a half before everyone else in my family. I do my fitness, which is usually 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour, depending what I'm doing. And then I meditate. And then after that, I get in the kitchen and start packing lunch boxes and making breakfast for the day. So I kind of have my whole little routine, especially in the morning. And I find that reduces my stress because I get up, I know what I'm doing. I don't get distracted with work or with whatever. And that just helps start off my day right. And I feel like that routine really reduces my stress. Back to also the detox topic, another thing that I do is they talk about this intermittent fasting. It's kind of a buzzword today. I was kind of skeptical about it. I'm not so sure about it, but I can say that I've tried it, and I think it actually works really well for me. I feel like I do detox a lot in the morning, in the early morning hours, and as up through about 10 a.m., I feel like my body is really detoxing, and I find that it's useful not to eat during that time. And I actually feel better when I do that. So I do that just because it makes me feel better. Again, I have no quantitative data about that, but I just find that that's how my body is working.
I find it interesting to learn more about the importance of fasting and, having that intermittent fasting. It's from the time you finish dinner until when you break your fast the next day, having breakfast, your first meal of the day. That should be about 15 hours, and how important it is to not be eating late at night, then going to bed, and then your body is working on digesting that food and taking that as a priority over having to detoxify your body from the day. So I think, as we talk about the holistic method of the sleep and the stress, digestion, hydration, and the exercise, it's really important to, eating properly, the proper amount ratio of carbs, protein, and fat, so you feel full and you're satiated, you're not overeating, you're not eating after dinner until you go to bed, and really realize how little we need to eat, and automatically you start to fast and you're not hungry because you ate the right amount of macronutrients. So the importance of fasting, I think, is a great area to look into, if that helps improve our detoxification system and our ability to eliminate those toxins and get our drainage systems working optimally.
Exactly. And our family also does that in terms of the bedtime. So we eat dinner at 6, and the kids are between 7:30 and 8. And we don't eat after dinner. And if we're running late from something and dinner's going to be late, we just skip it. It's better for us to skip it than it is to go to bed on a huge stomach. So that's how we do it.
I think as athletes, we really need to make sure we are getting our proper sleep and managing our stress and digesting our food properly so we can detoxify and be healthy. But I find that important for all athletes and athletes of all ages, including kids. And I have these clients and friends I have that they eat late at night, and it's great, I think, to eat as a family, but if you're making you eat at 9:30 at night, how good is that for your digestive system, your detoxification system, and help improve your performance in life and sports if we're not able to have proper digestion and elimination?
It's not good for digestion, right? You need gravity to digest, and if you want those bacteria and parasites that may have crawled up while swimming in gross water, you need your immune system. And if you've got food sitting in your digestive tract, and these parasites and bacteria are just from basically anaerobically fermenting that food in your digestive tract, so you need gravity to digest. You don't want that food sitting in there overnight.
So going back to endurance athletes and triathletes, is there anything we could do to help improve our recovery after workouts? If it's some type of nutritional support we can do, or movement pattern, or enema, what could it be that we can improve our recovery after we just did a long swim, bike, run workout, or went for a bike ride outside in hot weather, or maybe we did strength training with some intervals? So what have you found with all your research you've been doing? What have you found, any tricks to help us be healthier from the inside out?
So I don't know what's the optimal. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not an expert in that area, but I can tell you what I do and what I think works really well. So we do salt water with, not salt water, but water with a little bit of salt and lemon. We find that, a lot of people talk about that as a detox tonic. I don't know about that, but I can say that it does seem to help after after a big workout. And we have fresh lemons here in California all the time. So that's really a nice one. The other thing that we do is we do a product called fulvic humic mineral blend. It is a liquid mineral blend, as they say. And that over the years has just found to be one of the best mineral replenishments for our family. It really works well for us. We have some others in a liquid form and in a pill form, but that one seems to really work well for us. So we do that. It's called, it's by Vital Earth, and it's called Fulvic Humic Mineral Blend, and it is a liquid. So you shake it up. It tastes like water. It's black, it's black, but it tastes like water. And that seems to be one of the best mineral replenishments that our family has found. The other thing that we do if it's been a really, really tough workout is we do chromium then on top of that. And so we do just the normal Whole Foods chromium on top of that. If it's been a really bad workout and we're expecting muscle soreness and things like that, then we hit the chromium extra as well.
So we're running out of time as usual, but I really would love to send people to your website and let them find your article or 2 or 10 on your big, huge library list of articles and videos on your website. So just share what it was. Debugyourhealth.com. There's a YouTube channel as well, but the videos are on the website. So you can just go through the information on the website, and then there'll be a video at the appropriate place in the text where it fits. So your website and videos, you're just doing this for free. It's not a business. You're not doing any consultations or anything. Explain a little bit how this works. For me and for our family, this is a charity. I mean, we do this because we suffered long and hard. And I wish all the information that is on my website was out there for us when we needed it. And the site has been up not very long now, actually, but it is the people that need the information are finding it, and it is helping them. So that was the goal. We don't make any money. We don't make any money off the site. We don't have any affiliate links or anything like that. It's for us, it's really a charity, and people can donate, and all the donations go to basically pay the web hosting and the site to pay for the site. So if people want to donate, they can. But other than that, it's a complete charity, and our family doesn't make any money off of it. Thank you so much, Susan, for your time today and sharing all your great knowledge and resources. And I hope we can talk again about different ways to detoxify and how to really secret tips that we don't talk about or read about, that how athletes can improve performance by maybe doing an enema, getting rid of that worm or parasite infection that we might have gotten in a weird race in lake, like I feel like I did when we were in Vegas 70.3 World Championship in 2012. We swam in waters that were not open to the public the rest of the year. You're not allowed to swim in it. There is a reason, because the water is totally nasty. So thanks for educating us and giving us more resources and helping others prevent what you went through in your family. And that's kind of we're on the same journey, trying to just share our knowledge to help everybody else avoid what we're going through and helping them learn how to heal from our training and knowledge. So good to have more people like you out in the world. Thanks, Debbie, and thanks for the work you're doing. I think it's great that you're into health and fitness and nutrition, but also understand stress and sleep and hydration and all those things. So thanks for the work you're doing, and thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.